Okay, in this video, we're going to do the homework for 2.1 and then the notes for 2.2. So it says, describe how to sketch the fourth figure in the pattern. So let's analyze these figures first off. So I took a rectangle and I divided it in half. So I divided it into 2. Then I divided it into 4. Then I divided it into 8ths. So I should now, if this is times 2 times 2 times 2 is going to be 16ths. And I should have 8 dark and 8 white. So you don't need to draw it. You just need to describe how to sketch it. Okay, describe the pattern in the numbers 120, 60, 30, and write the next 2 numbers in the pattern. Okay, so it looks to me like I am dividing by 2. Oh, I'm doing that here also. So divide 30 by 2 and I get 15. Divide 15 by 2 and I get 7.5. So divide by 2 is my procedure. Okay, look at this next one. Given the pattern of triangles below, make a conjecture about the number of segments in a similar diagram with 5 triangles. Okay, so 1 triangle, 2, 3. What's the pattern with the segments? So there are 3 segments here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 here. So this is going up by 1, and this is going up by 2. So if we're going to have 4 shapes, that's going to go up by 1. We should have, go up by 2, 9 segments. If we had 5 shapes, go up by 1, and this has to go up by 2, so we're going to have 11. So we're going to have 11 segments. So what did I do? If I added 4 to add another triangle, I would have added 2 more, right? And then to add another triangle, I would have added 2 more. That's how I'm getting 11. Okay, so these are conjectures looking at patterns. Okay, numbers such as 3, 11, 15, and 29 are odd numbers. Make and test a conjecture about the product of any 2 odd numbers. Okay, so I'm going to keep them small. So 1 times 3, that product is 3. 3 times 5, that product is 15. Let's see. Oops, I didn't want to say 15. What am I doing? Okay, there we go. How about 3 times 7? They're both odd. So what do you think? This is my test. What can you say about the product of odd numbers, knowing that product means multiplication? So it looks like the product of odd numbers is an odd number. Okay, all of these are odd. They're not divisible by 2. So then the next one is find a counterexample to disprove the conjecture. Supplementary angles are always adjacent. Okay, so maybe I got the conjecture from something like this. If I drew that, those are supplementary angles, and they certainly are adjacent. But what if I drew them like this instead? What if I said that this angle is 60 and this angle, so let's make it big, is 120. Now they are not adjacent, right? They're not sharing a vertex and they're not sharing a common side, but they are still supplementary. So this is your counter example. Okay? Still supplementary, still add to 180, but they're not adjacent. They're not touching at the vertex, and they do not share a side. Okay, which conjecture could you make based on the graphs? Let's look at the graph. Number of drama production participants, drama production participation, and this is over the years. Okay, participants have remained steady since 1984. If they did, then I would have a steady line like that. I don't have that, so I can't use that. The number of girls participating in a drama production exceeds the number of boys. I have no idea whether these are boys or girls, so I can't say that. The number of participants for West Side Story is over 50. Nothing about West Side Story here. I can't use that. Participants have increased steadily since 1990. So where's 1990? Probably in between. Let me get rid of my little thing here. If this is 1990, so let's look. Is it reasonable to say that participants have increased steadily? I'd say yes. So that's the conjecture I can make based on this graph. Okay, time for, so hopefully you did okay in that homework. Time for the next set of notes. Okay, so conditional statements. They're also called if-then statements. So a conditional statement is a logical statement that has a hypothesis and a conclusion. So if it rains, then I will get wet. Here is your hypothesis. It follows the if. So this is the hypothesis. And the conclusion follows the then. Okay, the hypothesis is the if part of the conditional statement, and the conclusion is the then part. Okay, so that's what you need to know. Okay, if you negate something in general, it's the negative of the original statement. Okay, the converse, okay, I'm just going to give you some rules here. Exchanges the hypothesis, and the conclusion. And the inverse negates the hypothesis and the conclusion. The contrapositive, it's the converse and the inverse of a conditional statement. Okay, this was a lot. Let's apply this and it'll make more sense. Okay, a statement that has a hypothesis and a conclusion is in the if-then form. Okay, if it's in that form, it's a conditional statement. Okay, things are equivalent when two statements are both true or both false. And then our last definition, perpendicular, there are two lines that when they cross, they form a right angle. Okay, so that's all our vocab. Now let's see if we can figure this out. Okay, if you're going to rewrite a statement in the if-then form, so make it a conditional statement. So that's what I'm doing this. Make these statements conditional statements. So that has to be statement. Sorry. State. Okay. All birds have feathers. That's a statement. So I could say, if an animal is a bird, then it has feathers. Okay, so I use my if and I use my then. This piece is the hypothesis, and this piece is the conclusion. Okay, two angles are supplementary if they are a linear pair. How can I take that information and make it into an if-then statement? What if I said, if two angles are supplementary, then they are a linear pair. Okay, now that's not necessarily true, but we're not testing the truth or falsehood of these statements yet. Okay, here's another one. Here's a statement, all Great Danes are large dogs. I have to make it into an if-then. If a dog is a Great Dane, then it is large. Okay, so here's my if, and here's my then. Here's my if, and here's my then. Okay, when we do a quiz, I'm going to ask you to do this. So be able to take a statement and write it as an if-then statement. Okay, next example. I'm going to give you a conditional statement. Or actually, I'm going to give you a statement. You're going to make it into a conditional statement. Okay, so guitar players are musicians. So I'm going to say, if I am a guitar player, then I am a musician. Okay, and that could be a true statement. If someone's a guitar player, they're a musician. Okay. How about the converse? Converse is switch. Let me write that better. Switch the hypothesis and the conclusion. So you're going to write it backwards. Okay, like sneakers, Converse sneakers, you can walk backwards. I'm going to say backwards. And this is how I'm going to write it. The if-then was, if I am a guitar player, then I am a musician. So write it backwards. If I am a musician, then I am a guitar player. That is false, because if you're a musician, maybe you play the drums. So that statement, the converse, is not true, it's false. Okay, let's go to the next one. Inverse. I'm going to say not, not. Go back to your if then. If then was, if I am a guitar player, then I am a musician. Not, if I am not a guitar player, then I am not a musician. If I am not a guitar player, then I am not a musician. What do you think about that? If I'm not a guitar player, I could be a piano player. So I think this is false. And then we have one more, the contrapositive. So you're going to do both the converse and the inverse. So first you can take the converse, and then we're going to not it. Okay, so let me do it like this. Take your converse. So I'm going to say converse plus not. Okay, look at the converse. If I am a musician, make it if I am not a musician. Then I am not a guitar player. And that is true. So one thing we've learned is that the truthfulness of converse and inverses relate to one another. If one's false, the other one's false. And the truthfulness of the conditional statement and the contrapositive go hand in hand. Okay, so that's your takeaway there. Let's keep going. Example 3. Write 4 related conditional statements. That means I have to do all the different styles. Okay, good counsel students take 4 years of math. Okay, so write that as an if-then statement, conditional statement. If I am a GC student, then I take 4 years of math. Okay, that's an if-then statement. Next one, converse. So we'll do green. You're going to switch, right? Converse, you're going to walk backwards. Here comes converse. If I take 4 years of math, then I am a good counsel student. Okay, we're going to talk about the truthfulness of these statements in just a minute. Okay, inverse. Go back to the original, and you're going to say not. Back to the original. If I am not a good counsel student, then I do not take 4 years of math. Okay, so then contrapositive. take your converse. So take your converse and then not it. Okay, so here comes my contrapositive. Take my converse and then negate it. If I do not take 4 years of math, then I am not a GC student. Okay, so let's analyze these a little bit. In terms of what I'm seeing, the converse, I have to walk backwards. The inverse, I go back up to the original if-then, and I not it. The contrapositive, I take my converse, and I not it. Okay, let's talk about what's true and what's false. If I am a good counsel student, then I take 4 years of math. What do you think? So if I am a good counsel student, then I take 4 years of math. So let's say that maybe that's true. If I take 4 years of math, then I am a good counsel student. Well, couldn't you take 4 years of math at Sherwood and you wouldn't be a good counsel student? If I am not a good counsel student, then I do not take 4 years of math. Well, you could. I think that's going to be false too. If I do not take 4 years of math, then I am not a good counsel student. Okay, so I'm thinking, maybe that's true. Okay, those are a little bit harder to kind of figure out, but let's keep going. Okay, look at the homework. Here you're going to rewrite the conditional statement as an if-then. So you can say, if I am an animal, if I am a whale, then I am a mammal. So you could say something like that. Think about that. Write if-then. So if-then is the conditional statement. Converse is walk backwards. The inverse is not. And the contrapositive, take the converse and not it. Okay, and you're going to do a couple of these. Same thing here. If then, converse, inverse, contrapositive. Do it twice and see how we do, and then we'll discuss it when I see you again in class. Okay, thank you for listening.